my name is Heather Rae, and I have lived in the Tri-Cities for pretty much my entire life. Grew up here and came back here after school and settled down. I work full-time as a veterinarian, and I also have 3 kiddos who are 7, 5, and almost 2. My road to Ironman, I guess, started kind of randomly. Never in my whole entire life have I ever considered myself an athlete in any way, shape, or form. After I had my 3rd baby in December of 2022, I very randomly decided to take up running. It started with signing up for a wine run, kind of on a whim, because that sounded fun. And then I did that, and I found that running gave me an outlet and something that I could do where nobody needed me. Nobody was going to ask me a question or need a snack. It was just me and the jogging stroller and getting outside, and I just kind of fell in love with it. So after I did, it was a 10K wine run, and then I was like, okay, now I'm going to be serious. So I decided to sign up for a half marathon. And I did that last fall and had a lot of fun training for it all summer, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And then I got to the end of that race and was like, well, now what am I gonna do? And although I love running, I was getting a little bored with running like 5 days a week. And so I thought, what would be really cool is if I took up triathlon. There were a couple really big problems with this plan. The number one problem being that I didn't know how to swim at all. And the number 2 problem being that I really hadn't ridden a bike since I was a kid. But I had just run a half marathon, so I thought, well, I did that. I could probably do pretty much anything. So I signed up for some adult swim lessons, which was an experience, a humbling one, because I went in thinking I just ran a half marathon. I'm pretty fit. This will be fine. It wasn't fine. It was like months of crying before pretty much every swim lesson, and like so much frustration because it was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. But I was determined. I'd already signed up for a triathlon. It was June 1st. That was the deadline. I started swim lessons in November. And one day it was like the weirdest thing. My swim coach kept saying, don't quit. Eventually it's just going to click and you're going to get it. And I did not believe her at all. I really thought that I would never make it to that triathlon because I would not know how to swim. But then one day it just got easier, and then kind of flowed from there. So my original, this all kind of happened before I even knew about Ironman or that Ironman was coming to Tri-Cities. I was planning to do some shorter distance races. There's sprint and Olympic distance, all of which are a lot shorter than the 70.3 Ironman. And that was kind of what I had in mind. And it was funny when they first announced that the Ironman was coming to Tri-Cities, I kind of laughed about it. My husband was jokingly was like, we should do this. And I was like, yeah, okay, if we both quit our full-time jobs and train full-time, maybe. Like, we had just run a half marathon and it was great, but it was really hard. And I was like, I literally cannot imagine swimming 1.2 miles, biking 56 miles, and then running a half marathon. That's just crazy. So it really wasn't on my radar very much, other than that I knew other people were doing it and were really excited about it. Thank you. I had a training plan that I was following for my sprint triathlon, which was like, it's a pretty short distance. It's like a 400-meter swim and then a 10-mile bike ride and a 5K run. So very approachable for a beginner. And I had a training plan that I was following for that. And I got a couple weeks into it and I was like, this is great, but it's too easy. Like, I just wanted more. And around that time, we went to a talk that they had held at Greenie's, actually, that was like intro to triathlon. And I just thought, great, intro to triathlon. We're going to figure out how the transitions work and all the gear and all the things, which we did, but it was very Ironman focused, which I probably in hindsight should have predicted, but didn't. And then there were all these people there that were signed up for the Ironman. And I was just looking around, all these other people, normal looking people. And I thought, if all these people could do it, why can't I do it? So we went home that night, and I think my husband really thought I lost my mind because we went in, planning to do a sprint triathlon. And I was like, hey, I think I'm going to sign up for the Ironman. And he was like, okay. And I did. And immediately upped my training substantially because I realized at that point that I was going to have to be quite a bit more serious and dedicated to do a half Ironman than I would have needed to be to do a sprint triathlon. But it actually worked really nicely because I did 2 of those sprint distance triathlons over the summer, which were really good practice and just getting a feel for like transitioning between the different disciplines and setting up all the gear. And like a lot of it is just sort of learning by doing. And it felt like a really good build to get to this point where now I'm racing the 70.3 this weekend. So definitely one of the hardest things about this whole journey has just been finding the time. And when I made the commitment to sign up for the race, that was definitely part of it, is just recognizing that like this was going to be a really big commitment. It's not something that you can just kind of do on a whim or you can fake your way through. Like I really needed to have a plan for how I was going to manage it and balance it with everything else. And thank goodness the days are really long in the summer because that was super helpful. There was a whole lot of days where I started training sessions at 5 o'clock in the morning so that I could get she's everywhere. I started training sessions at 5 a.m. because I needed to do like, okay, I've got a 3-hour bike ride and then I'm gonna get off the bike and I'm gonna run for an hour. And I also need to spend time with my children this weekend. So I would go at 5 o'clock in the morning. Bonus, it's also not hot at 5 o'clock in the morning and there's not a lot of cars on the road at 5 o'clock in the morning, both of which were helpful. But I would go and like the sun's just coming up. I got to enjoy a lot of Tri-Cities sunrises this summer, which was great. So yeah, getting up early was one thing, and then just really planning out my whole week. Like I'd sit down with my planner over the weekend and I'd pencil in my workouts and my swim lessons and my kids' activities and other stuff I had going on because I still had a life outside of that. And like meal plan, you know, be like, okay, I have a swim lesson on Tuesday, so we're gonna need to eat dinner before we go. So I'm gonna put something in the crock pot in the morning. Like everything was just meticulously, every hour it was accounted for, which was really hard, but also really good once you got into that flow. I would definitely say if anyone is thinking about doing an Ironman or triathlon in general in the future, or you're hearing about this and going, this sounds cool, but also crazy and I could never ever do it. It's kind of cheesy, but the Ironman motto is anything is possible. And that's been super motivating to me and like honestly been really true throughout this process that like, obviously not for everybody, but for a lot of people, if you're willing to put the time in and commit to the process and really just put the work in, I really think that this is pretty achievable for a lot of people. And it's super rewarding. Like I've spent more time outside and just got to enjoy how beautiful the Tri-Cities is and how beautiful this course is. Like I've ridden my bike on the course almost every single weekend since early June. And it's an amazing course. And we're just like, I've just been struck by how lucky I am to live here, even as like a lifelong Tri-Cities resident, of like just being able to see it through a different lens. And be so excited now about sharing it with all these athletes and supporters that are going to come and get to enjoy it with us. Yes, and my little helpers. It's definitely overwhelming at first, but the triathlon community is also like super welcoming and encouraging, and that's been another great part about this whole process, is just getting to be in that community, and so welcoming to beginners too.
Yeah, do you have something to say? Do you want to talk about when you were training with Mama in her stroller?
Yeah, you have been a big training help. That have been able and willing to give time to answer questions and lead open water swim groups, and you know, our local businesses like our bike shops have been so helpful. Like I've gone into some of these local bike shops more times than I can count with just like random question or gear needs or whatever, and like they've been amazing. And it just is a really positive, welcoming space, and there's room for everybody here. And if being an athlete isn't something that you're interested in, or something that, you know, you feel like is something that's attainable for you physically or logistically or whatever, like there's also so many opportunities to get involved as a volunteer, and that's really exciting too. Like it's just going to be an event with so much energy and so much fun, and just such an opportunity for our community to welcome all these athletes and their families and friends and spectators. So it's super exciting. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm just super thankful to my husband for all his help and support and juggling childcare and crazy schedules as we've been working through this summer of training, and my parents and my in-laws have helped with kiddos too, and my swim coach who had a nearly impossible task of teaching me to swim and pulled it off beautifully. And it's just been an amazing journey, and I'm so excited now to have put in all the time in the training, and now we're just enjoying it and getting excited for race day, and it's going to be a beautiful day, and we're just going to have a ton of fun. So I'm super, super excited. So this is my very basic road bike. This is another good example of like, you do not have to have all the fancy gear to do this. I would definitely suggest a road bike. I think doing it on like a mountain bike or a hybrid bike would be really hard.
It'd be really hard. Yeah, that's a lot of mileage.
For a sprint triathlon though, totally fine. People do them on all kinds of bikes.
Good to know. Yeah.
For a 70.3, you're gonna want a road bike.
Yeah.
But this is like a very basic entry level road bike. So it just has like, it doesn't have the fancy arrow handlebars or anything. Awesome. But I've got my pouch up here, which is where I store my nutrition, where it's easy to get to.
Yeah, that's
and you can fit like a lot of those little gels in there, and maybe little I like using those little Bobos that they have at Costco. They're like little,
yes. Those are good.
Yes. They're really
good.
good.
A little bit of protein in it.
I'll throw some applesauce in there sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Toddler pouches actually work really well.
That's awesome.
Have a lot of electrolytes, but they're cheaper than the gels. So I have used a lot of applesauce pouches in my training.
That's awesome.
And then I've got 2 water bottle cages on here. So a water bottle cage, or a water bottle lasts me an hour. I go through 1 bottle an hour. So I also got good over the summer on long bikes, figuring out like, okay, I need to stop and fill my water bottle up. I stopped at the Badger Mountain Trailhead on Dallas a lot. There's a water fountain and a porta potty there. It was like my rest stop, halfway point. It was perfect.
That's
so
awesome.
A lot of strategy in that.
That's awesome.
And then I have another pouch back here, and this one has all my mechanical stuff. So it has my spare tire, or my spare tube for my tires, and my tire levers, and my little wrench guy that I probably wouldn't know how to do anything with anyway, but it's in there.
That's okay. Because you were saying like, earlier you were saying like you have to be self-sufficient and you're supposed to be able to do it all on your own if you get a flat. That is intense.
Since I'm tapering and I'm not training a lot this week, the plan is I'm going to take one of the wheels off of Dustin's bike and practice changing the tire.
That's a good idea.
I've done it. We went to like a class on how to change the tire.
That's really cool.
But
here in the Tri-Cities?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They did it at one of the bike shops.
Oh,
they did it at the
nice.
Trek bike shop.
Man. That's
and
so cool.
it was great. Like, they were super helpful, and like I was like, I have no idea what I am
That's
doing.
okay. That's okay. Because it's one of those things where you do it once and you're like, oh yeah, but like you probably could do it again. But like, that's good that you're practicing.
I'm
like that.
going to practice because I just
great.
have like anxiety about getting a flat tire and like
it's okay.
not slowing me down and not making the cutoff because of that, because that would be such a bummer.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
So we're going to practice, and it's going to be good.
It is a journey. I'm so excited for you. It's so fun.
My very, very basic
so
road
cool.
bike.